My name is Alice Apley.
My name is Curdina Hill.
My name is Farah Jeune.
My name is
Kirchoff.
My name is Laura.
My name is Lynda Bassett.
I'm Martha.
My name is Patrice Westray.
My name is Susan Marsh.
My name is Trudi Olivetti.
My name is Wendy Wolfe.
My name is Susan Porter.
I've always been interested in the arts, particularly theater and music, and more recently gotten involved with book arts.
I'm really rather new to bookmaking.
I really love art. Tremendous. It is something that is really a soul place for me.
One of the reasons we came up with the name Kaleidoscope Group is because this group is women from all ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, from all different parts of the state. So each of us brings their own unique perspective to the group.
So I became involved in this group through Susan Porter, who is the superstar of this group.
Susan reached out to me.
Susan Porter asked.
Susan Porter.
Of course, how I met Susan.
Susan's former neighbor.
She sent out this idea.
It wasn't an original idea. My friend Belinda Lyons from Western Mass has a similar group, or has a group that is doing something similar. So she kept telling me, you know, how much fun it was and I should try it. So we got together and I got kind of an idea from her of how hers worked. And then I sent out an invitation to 25 of the most interesting people that I knew.
And it was a group of 12 strangers, so it was almost like a reality show.
And answered her email in a half a second.
I was actually shocked because she didn't know me very well, and I was just very flattered and honored that she considered me for the groups. I think, you know, the idea of putting books together with learning about each other, doing a project together, exploring different subjects, all of those things appealed to me. So I jumped in, and here we are.
Pass our book around each month and somebody else works on our theme. So we have to choose a theme.
My book was called Food Tales, Vegetarian Recipes with International Flavor and the Stories that Go with Them. So members of our Kaleidoscope group each contributed recipes from their background, their personal histories, family recipes that have been handed down for generations.
The theme of my book is spice roots. And I chose that theme because I'm really interested in how spices were one of the earliest ways in which kind of we're connected as a people globally.
I know that everybody is very stressed in this environment, and so for me, I wanted to provide an avenue for de-stress, and so I chose doodles because it's something that I've done all my life when I'm stressed, so much so that you know, at the end of a semester, I couldn't read my notes. They were just completely doodled.
My theme is layers, layers, layered, layering. And the theme came along because most things in life are really gray, meaning not on one end of the spectrum absolutely or the other end. And a lot of our, I think, national conversation sometimes is either one or the other. And also life is very layered and nuanced. I guess what I mean by gray is nuanced. There are complexities and depths and different viewpoints, and so it all is an amalgam of layers just about in everything that we touch and everything we live through and do.
My theme is feminism and what inspired me was the Boston Women's March that was at the beginning of this year, and also the DC Women's March. And you know, I was a part of the Boston Women's March, and it was so energizing and so inspirational and just so uplifting. Everything about it so positive. And I just wanted to do an art journal based on that because it just had so much emotion charged to it.
It was more like a thank you universe for allowing me to live. But also like I took it as like when I'm inhaling what's around me, like not only like just, you know, breathing, but like, you know, my community, like the greatness that I see. So inhaling all of that, you know, all that inspiration, and then, you know, using my art to like exhale what I see.
My theme, the presence of water, is perfect for me because I feel it's in every moment of my life. I don't notice it necessarily, but I wanted to be super conscious of it so that it becomes a source of connection with bigger things and inspiration for my art.
I had always been intrigued with like trying to make small books. I'd never done that, and I wanted to try to make small books. So I kind of thought a lot about what would be a good structure for this book, and I felt that using little matchboxes that are hinged together symbolized how we're all individuals and yet we're all linked by our common association with Susan and our love for art.
Oh, I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and I mean, the reason I got there is because I just find so much beauty in mechanics, which sounds so strange, but when I was an intern at General Motors when I was like 18, I loved the smell of the factory. I loved the grease on the wood floors, like the 1930s wood floor, the sound of the stamping machines, and just the thought that I was gonna get to work on the products, and I just love all of that. I find so much beauty in it. And so my theme is steampunk, and you know, when I discovered it, I sort of stumbled upon a steampunk festival in Waltham, and I was like, what is this?
My theme was stones, and it came to me immediately as a theme. I didn't have to think about it. It's sort of almost a religious aspect, and there are many aspects to stones. I think it's a very broad topic. I think some people were a little confused, or maybe they didn't think it was such a broad topic, but I think that changed as time went on.
So I picked crows because I love crows. They're very interesting. Every culture has crow legends and crow stories and things, so it's kind of an anthropological thing. Also, there's a lot of science and research on crows. There's psychological stuff. It just seems like a multidimensional thing, but something that would be easy to have a concrete image to work with.
The theme that I chose, and the theme reflects where I was in my life. This journey of making shifts at key life moments toward transformative change. I love the fact that I was doing this journey of transition, and as I said, transformative change, through using art.
I never knew what was going to happen each month.
It was so dependent on what the theme was.
So in the beginning, when we had like a orientation, and we each told our themes, and I was taking notes in my mind, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to create this for this person's book. And you know, I thought I had this all planned, but it didn't work out like that at all.
I was very intimidated. I was very intimidated. I was really scared because I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, what if she doesn't like it? What if it's not what she had in mind? What if
I found myself, in terms of my process, having to think at least 1 month in advance. I try to hold all the themes in my head.
And I would try to pack in everything I could about the subject, go through a big blank period, and then when I had maybe 72 hours left, I would stay up and not eat anything, and then have a breakthrough and come up with the art for the book.
The challenge was more physical, because a lot of people before me had done pop-ups or, you know, very chunky, you know, fold outs. So when I would do the book, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not flat anymore, you know, on that side. And what do I have to do to the page to make it something that, you know, can bring out what I'm, you know, trying to do.
Creating art really takes a lot of time. I think that's the other thing. It takes a lot of creativity. Frankly, you know, I ended up doing research I learned a lot myself.
And that was so much fun, especially as the time went on, you know, the months went by and there were more and more pages, because it was so interesting to see how everybody had taken the theme in a totally different direction and in really surprising ways. And then also there became this whole sort of encyclopedia of techniques for, you know, how to play out that theme visually.
Everybody had a different slant on something that is so iconic. You know, some people took it to poetry, some people took it to mystery, some people took it to science.
Susan's book, like crows, you know, of course black comes to mind because the crows and the oils and there's the, you know, the shimmer that they have in the sun. But I thought, what if everybody does black? And I said, maybe I can brighten this up and maybe I could tell a story about the crow. So, you know, I ended up doing a map of Boston, but all in collage. And the crow was flying to Cambridge to rescue his fellow crow.
It's really satisfying looking back. Is some people brought very personal stories. Others made sort of global connections.
Farah, for example, she contributed a recipe about soup joumou.
That was super fun. Like I got to put, you know, my family's Haitian background and history and talking about soup joumou, what it means to me. I actually want like a cup of that right now.
I felt so honored for someone to work in my book. It was like getting a gift.
Thank goodness steampunk came along. I didn't get steampunk till way down the line in the year, thank goodness. Because I thought, what am I going to do for that? But that one came from an experience. I remember thinking, getting all worked up. I'm a biker. And I remember thinking, I just hate when I'm out on the roads and I almost get killed by cars or drivers who are being just clueless. So I did a steampunk bike manifesto, and that ended up being so fun.
Karen's book about layers, because I love working in layers, and that I just like laid that on my art desk every day, and I'd like throw another, you know, thing of paint or pen. So I just kind of built on it. That was really fun.
I did a tunnel. And it was a form that I don't use that often. Layers is so you can take it anywhere. And I did a woodland scene. So I think, in that one, the form took precedence over the content.
Alice had layered cake, chocolate raspberry layered cake. And so it was just really fun.
The book on feminism, I think, is a very strong book. I think everybody's contribution there was on top.
I had a breakthrough when I did feminism. I represented my friends in a new way, using a graphic art style that I really like and I'm comfortable with.
In Lynda's book, I got so carried away because I kept learning more and more about all these fabulous women, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to do in the book. So I ended up doing like 12 pages, which was totally embarrassing.
Story, there was new history I was learning.
Spent some time living in Roxbury, and Curdina did the Roxbury pudding stones.
So this theme of stones, I really very click with that, and the whole time while I was even working on other things, I was thinking about stones, and in this case, somebody had written this wonderful poem about the history of Roxbury and about the pudding stones. So I ended up taking pictures I went along of pudding stones.
Didn't just resonate with them, but also with me.
Curdina's book with the letting go, because during that month, both of my children graduated from college, and one moved to California, and the other one, I wasn't sure where she was going to be going. I figured it would be far away, and so it was kind of, they were going away, and so I did a painting that I just was very happy with. That kind of softer colors, that kind of idea of memory, of sadness, but also of hope and excitement about this new future for all of us, and me and my husband as well. So I had like a little empty nest that I drew and painted and sewed And then sewed to it, I had images of my children when they were very young walking away from me. So kind of was fun. I liked that one.
The first person that had my book, by the way, was Karen. And she just, like, every time I see her, I just want to give her a hug. Like, the way that she started it off so strong, all the colors, all the deep messages. I even have she made me like a little book. I have it on my fridge at home, like about like the brain and the activity. And then some people would make like how animals breathe, how they breathe. They would make lungs, they would do doodles. Like, it's like literally, it was almost like, you know, self-therapy. And it also allowed me to like learn a little bit more about them.
The book that was most challenging was probably doodles. It's just kind of surprising.
So I think of a doodle as a mindless exercise. Some people doodle and they actually create things.
You would think that'd be the easiest thing to do, but for me, I guess it's my background as an architect. Everything needs to be planned and thought out. So to just kind of go with that white page and just do it was daunting.
It was about spices and spice roots. There were things about travel, about particular spices, about recipes, about the people involved in the spice trade and power relations and ways in which continents are connected.
Really cool how everybody interpreted the theme of matches or matchboxes in a totally different way. I mean,
that was very challenging, and I'm
the matchbook.
The matchbook, and I am not satisfied with my contribution to the matchbook, but we'll just have to let it be because that was really challenging. But some people were, you know, it's amazing.
Everyone cursed me every month because they had to work such small detail, but it was still fun, and they all did incredibly beautiful work. So it was really, they're like little jewels.
I think that people should feel free to try to bring together a group of people of 12 to do this, because I think it is, you know, I think besides just a passion for art making and for bringing people together to do art making, I think there are a lot of people that would like something like this, and particularly if you put it forth as you don't have to have great experience making art.
When we're sharing together, when people share what they've done, it's so personal.
Through our pages, we ended up revealing more about ourselves and sharing more about ourselves, and that bonded us together.
We topped ourselves, you know. We would pass the book around and be like, oh my gosh, I don't think it can get any better. But then it got better.
This group has been wildly informative. I mean, there's so many things I've learned that I didn't know, particularly about spice roots and you know, vegan cooking and just all of these things. I mean, who would have ever, I would have never paid any attention to a crow before, to the point where I was going to be researching it and then get obsessed with them. You know, it's fascinating.
Well, now I do. Now I do identify as an artist. Like that, this group gave me that confidence to identify as an artist now. So now I do. I have definitely more confident with my work.
Creativity feeds back and forth, so I feel more creative now than I did when we started, and I see that in other people as well, that when you feel at home with a group of people that you're collaborating with in an art medium, it's incredibly growth producing.